Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So here, the supportive spouse of Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, has just filed a motion to be dismissed from his wife, Blake Lively, and Justin Baldoni's legal saga. He says he doesn't have anything to do with this. He wants to be out of this, thereby leaving his wife to fight this alone. They should be together, guys. What do you think about it? Let's listen. Let's watch.
Hello, we're back. I am going through this dragon's motion to be dismissed from Justin Baldoni's lawsuit and sharing with you all the most memorable bits. But I just had a brain fart or a light bulb moment or both. In his motion to be dismissed, he alleged that Justin Baldoni destroyed his wife. And I did not put two and two together that earlier today I made a different video where Baldoni's attorney said the same term, that he's been destroyed by Blondie. Interesting how they are all speaking the same language. Destruction! Destroyed! Destroyed! Back to his motion to dismiss, where we left off in my last video. The Wayfarer parties have asserted a grab bag of claims against Mr. Reynolds in their first amended complaint. They detail them all. Despite its length, the first amended complaint only alleges a few isolated acts by Mr. Reynolds. Quote, her publicist, Leslie Sloan, went so far as to propagate malicious stories portraying Baldoni as a sexual predator, a term Lively's husband, Ryan Reynolds, also used to describe Baldoni when he called Baldoni's own agent. Also, Baldoni later received word that during the premiere of his movie Deadpool and Wolverine, Reynolds approached Baldoni's agency, namely an executive at WME, and expressed his deep disdain for Baldoni, suggesting the agency was working with a sexual predator. Interestingly, of note, Scarlett Johansson's ex-husband does not deny the predator allegation, but his motion says that that is protected speech. We'll get to that in a second, but let me finish this section. Apart from those two statements, the totality of the First Amended complaint's allegations against Mr. Reynolds are that Mr. Reynolds demanded that the Wayfarer parties publicly apologize for so-called mistakes during production of the film, was present during a meeting at the apartment he shares with Miss Lively, at which he praised Miss Lively's version of a scene in Mr. Baldoni's presence, allegedly contributed some writing of his own to the script, admonished Mr. Baldoni for asking about Miss Lively's weight and demanded that a scene be removed from the film, attended a meeting with Miss Lively to address her allegations of sexual harassment on set and demanded that Mr. Baldoni apologize for his conduct, unfollowed Mr. Baldoni on social media, and included the Nice Pool character in Deadpool and Wolverine, that the first amended complaint alleges was meant to satirize Mr. Baldoni's persona as a woke feminist. Then they go on to explain why the claims fail under both New York and California law. He does not make a single true claim of defamation, he alleges. Then they come and mention some court cases that back up his claims that predator is a matter of opinion. They cite a ruling saying a court in this district has explained, quote, courts have recognized that words like scum, predators, greedy crooks, and criminals preying on street art culture are vague, imprecise statements of hyperbole considered non-actionable opinion. Winning. Fair play, Ryan Reynolds, fair play. Use of colorful language such as predator, victimized, or face of evil are not actionable in and of themselves, another ruling reads. Even if the predator statements were verifiable as fact, they are not actionable as defamation because they are substantially true, he, through his lawyer, adds. The First Amended complaint includes numerous references to conduct that a reasonable observer could well consider predatory. Now they're bringing up his own words to bite him in the booty. Quote, I'm sure I have crossed boundaries and lines in my teens and 20s, not even thinking about it simply because of the corn I was consuming. I grew up and I had an addiction to corn. I was introduced to corn at 10 years old, formed these neural pathways in my brain, and it caused me to see the world very differently, said him in the past. No one ever sits down and teaches us about consent. We learn it through corn. It would be perverse to permit Mr. Baldoni to build an entire brand, complete with a podcast, TED Talk, and books, off his confessions of repeatedly mistreating women, only to turn around and sue Mr. Reynolds for $400 million for simply pointing out in private what Mr. Baldoni has bragged about in public. Additionally, it should be dismissed because they can't prove malice, which is a very important part in a defamation lawsuit. Malice comes into play because he's not an average citizen, he is a public figure. Therefore, it must be factored. The bar for defamation is higher for celebrities and public figures. Jesus Christ, they go on and on about the whole predator of it all so much. Then they get into the whole business aspects of it. The Wayfarer Party complaint fails to state a claim of false light. Similarly, the complaint fails to state a claim of civil extortion, he alleges, making similar arguments for all of the other claims. Additionally, his motion to dismiss alleges that the Wayfarer parties have failed to allege any damages. The first amended complaint repeatedly asserts that the Wayfarer parties were harmed and prays for a damage award of at least $400 million, but nowhere explains how or how much any of the Wayfarer parties were actually damaged by any of the alleged conduct in the complaint. Well, I'm sure that would be explained at trial. They also bring up the fact that their complaint mentions information and belief a lot, inferring that he doesn't have that much proof, no receipts against him. That's why he should be dismissed from the case. Woo! And he is now asking Baldoni and Steve Sarowitz, his billionaire co-founder, to pay his attorney's fees. Oh my God. And we got through the entire motion to dismiss. In response to that, a rep for Reynolds released a statement tripling, quadrupling down that says, quote, "The entirety of Mr. Baldoni's case appears to be based on Mr. Reynolds allegedly privately calling Mr. Baldoni a predator. But here's the problem. That is not defamation unless they can show that Mr. Reynolds did not believe that statement to be true. The complaint doesn't allege that. In fact, it suggests the opposite, that Mr. Reynolds genuinely believes Mr. Baldoni is a predator. Mr. Reynolds has a First Amendment right to express his opinion of Mr. Baldoni, which should be comforting to a group of people who have repeatedly called Miss Lively and Mr. Reynolds bullies and other names over the past year. The claims filed against Mr. Reynolds are simply a list of grievances attempting to shame him for being the man Mr. Baldoni has built his brand pretending to be. A man who is confident enough to listen to the woman in his life. We look forward to this lawsuit being dismissed and to collecting on Steve Sarowitz's $100 million pledge by recovering Mr. Reynolds' costs and attorney's fees incurred to toss this frivolous case. So far, Justin Baldoni's attorney has not responded to Ryan Reynolds' motion to be dismissed from the lawsuit, but as soon as I get that, I will share it with you all. Until then, we have closed this chapter in the never-ending It Ends With Us saga. Thoughts on him wanting his attorney's fees paid? Thoughts on all of the claims and allegations and everything we've learned in this part 2 video? Let's discuss it all in the comments section.
So now, public figure Ryan Reynolds says because Justin Baldoni has no evidence against him, he should be dismissed. He should be, you know, sent out of this lawsuit. He doesn't want anything to do with it anymore. What do you think about this? And he also wants Justin Baldoni and his team to pay his lawyers like every money he's spent on the lawsuits. And that's weird. That's so weird. Well, what do you think about it, guys? And also, let's continue watching. Drop your comments later.
Looks like another one of Blake Lively's dragons is fleeing the penthouse as Ryan Reynolds has moved to dismiss the defamation case against him, leaving his wife to fight that battle all alone. But the reason Ryan wants to have the case dismissed is even crazier to me. Ryan was named in Justin Baldoni's defamation suit because Ryan allegedly called him a predator and tried to get him fired from his talent agency. But Ryan's lawyers are saying the case should be dismissed because Ryan does believe Justin's a predator. And to claim defamation, they would have to believe that Ryan didn't think he was a predator and said those things and tried to get him fired for no reason. Basically stating if Ryan did those things, then it doesn't matter because that's what he believed. Now, I don't think this is going to get dismissed. It's just standard procedure. I just find it crazy that Ryan is only trying to dismiss himself, which I don't know if that's his way of insinuating that he was just going along with his wife said and he doesn't actually believe what's going on now. I don't know. I may be reaching, but let me know what you guys think in the comments and be sure to hit that follow button to stay up to date with all the tea.
I too do not think he is going to be dismissed because at the beginning of all this, most creators on here were saying that he was the one who even pushed this case. And yes, sue him. He supported his wife. I mean, he should continue being a supportive husband till the end, Lord. Anyways, guys, let's continue watching. Let me know what you think. I do not think it's going to be dismissed. You?
What did Ryan Reynolds do in court today? Well, he motioned to dismiss. That's what he did. So let's go through it while I'm having my glorious dinner of mashed potatoes. I do think it's funny because I think he maybe kind of has a chance of getting this dismissed. Maybe not on everything, but I do feel like he's kind of a side character in some ways. Like, he's a main character in some ways, but then he's also a side character. If that makes sense, how he can be both. Say he is meritorious in getting this dismissed, and, like, then all the onus just falls on Blake, right? And, like, say she does end up being liable, and, like, she just has this huge judgment against her in the end. I mean, this is all conjecture, right? If he's just like, sayonara, like, this is yours to deal with. They are married, so any debt is kind of both of theirs, but you don't know what, like, transmutation agreement or premarital agreement they could have had. So there are some interesting statements from the introduction that, like, are just totally kind of like fluff it in your face, but let's read through them. So what does Ryan Reynolds have to do with that? Legally speaking, other than being a supportive spouse who has witnessed firsthand emotional, reputational, and financial devastation of Miss Lively has suffered, ? Nothing, in bold and italicized. Mr. Reynolds is a defendant in this action for one reason and one reason only, because billionaire plaintiff Steve Sarowitz promised to spend $100 million to ruin Blake and Ryan's life. This does feel similar to the other motions to dismiss from some of the other parties. He's saying that the statements are vague and can't really be considered defamatory, like the sexual predator one, the agent conversation where he was talking to the WME guy. Also doesn't necessarily have a date on it. There might be a statute of limitations issue. Then he goes into this argument about how, like, the term predator could be hyperbole, and that's, like, not an actionable opinion, and cites some case law. I think that that's going to depend on the facts. And then he even uses Justin's words from his podcast and his books saying, like, see, like, he even confesses to, like, predatory behavior. So, like, like, why does this matter that I'm calling him that? And also, he's like, I have a First Amendment right to have disdain for somebody who I believe does these things to my wife, right? Like, which that's, like, a little bit of fluff for me, because it's like, well, if you're going out and saying it and it didn't happen, like, then we're in defamation land here. And yes, we need to prove actual malice because of the public figure stuff. But then he goes into a substantial truth argument, being like, if something's substantially true, based on, like, his past behavior, then it's not defamatory. He talks about how there's no contractual relationship to, and that kind of goes back to the New York, California law thing, since he was not the one that was employed. But it is interesting because he was a writer and there's documentation, right? So, or after the fact documentation. Also, when he frames this as, like, a retaliatory slap suit, he's, like, leveraging the New York power to shift the fees. We'll have to see what Baldoni's team has to say for this. Obviously Ryan wants this with prejudice, which means that they couldn't refile. So we will see. But that's what happened today.
So yeah, we've heard everything here. Supportive husband wants to be dismissed from this lawsuit. Do you think the motion should be granted to him, or should he remain there and fight till the end with his lovely spouse? Thank you guys for watching. Remember to drop your comments, your thoughts, and also subscribe to my channel, guys. Thank you. Bye.